Hello, and welcome back to Let's Get Lit. In today's episode, we're going to be going over Part 2, Chapter 10, the final chapter of Part 2 of George Orwell's classic, 1984. Let's see how this part ends up, shall we? This chapter starts off with Julia and Winston waking up from their sleep from the woman below who was washing and drying the diapers of what they assume to be her children or grandchildren. Julia gets up to make some coffee and mentions the stove is out of oil, and now the water is cold. Winston gets up as well, and they're both getting slightly dressed. Winston stares at the window and looks directly upon the woman who is singing. The woman had been singing before, and he notes how lovely her singing is. As he's standing there watching her, Julia comes up to him, and they both hold each other and look out the window watching the woman singing while she's doing her work. Winston notes how the people who have the lowest form or quality of life are the ones who are the most durable, and how it's going to be up to them in order to change the future. Primarily because the party and the inner party are the ones who will no longer continue to live in this world, with all of their thoughts and actions being monitored. It is the proles who are pretty much left to themselves to wake up and discover that they actually have the true power if they can collectively come together and overtake the authority. Winston has not finished the book. He does have an opinion as to what Goldstein was going to say in his final bit of information, and that is, all the hope that lies in the future lies with the proles. As they are standing there, an iron voice behind them says, "You are dead." At the sound of this, Winston's entrails turn to ice. The voice then says that it is behind the picture and to remain exactly where they are and make no movements until they've been ordered to do so. The picture falls to the floor, uncovering a telescreen behind it. The voice then says that the house is surrounded. Winston notices that the woman who's been singing is no longer singing, and there seems to come a sound as if the watchman had been thrown down. The voice tells them to go to the center of the room, each of them with their backs turned towards each other, and put their hands behind their head. As they're doing this, they can hear men in boots climbing up the stairs, and at that moment, a ladder comes crashing through the window. As all of the soldiers are coming in, Winston does not dare make a move because he does not want to give them a reason to hit him. One of the men picks up the glass paperweight and shatters it against the hearth of the fireplace. As Winston is standing there, he can hear the men hitting Julia, though he doesn't turn around to see this. He does realize that two of the men hoist her up by the knees and shoulders and carry her out of the room like a sack. He was able to get a quick glimpse of her face, upside down and yellow and contorted with her eyes shut, and it says that this was the last time he ever saw her. As Winston is standing there, a lot of thoughts come rushing into his head. However, he then pushes them aside, and he wondered if they had gotten Mr. Charrington as well. He also wondered what they did to the woman in the yard, and he noticed that he really needed to pee and was very surprised by this because he'd only done so 2 or 3 hours earlier. As he's standing there and all of his thoughts are running through his head, another lighter step on the passage begins to be heard, and it's Mr. Charrington coming into the room. When he walks in, he looks around and Winston can see that something has changed in his appearance. Mr. Charrington tells one of the men to pick up the pieces of the fragmented glass paperweight that has been shattered. The men do as he says, and this Cockney accent has disappeared. Winston realizes that this voice that he heard is the same one on the telescreen from behind the painting. As he continually looks at Mr. Charrington, who he thought was Mr. Charrington, he realizes that the appearance has changed. Winston knew that for the first time in his life, he was looking at a member of the Thought Police. This is where Part 2, Chapter 10 ends. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please join us as we begin Part 3 of this classic. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, stay lit.